Hello everyone, welcome back to the Jikook Diaries channel. This channel is where every look, every smile, and every small interaction between two people we love so much can become a heartfelt story. What if everything they've never posted actually holds the deepest story? What if that night, the night never seen by cameras, never made it onto timelines, never part of any updates, was the night that changed everything? A night where there was no stage, no spotlight, just two people finally stopping pretending and starting to be honest with their own feelings. Armies around the world may have only seen a small snippet, a gaze that lingered too long, a smile that felt different, a fleeting moment that quickly passed. But behind it all, there was something much bigger, something never meant for the public to see. And today, we're going to reveal it. What really happened that night? It all started with something seemingly ordinary. That day, they were with the other members, laughing as usual, sharing the same moments often seen on camera. Nothing strange, nothing suspicious. Even if one tried to look for signs, everything seemed normal, too normal. But that's precisely where the secret lay. Because when the cameras stopped rolling, when the members returned to their respective rooms, when the world thought the day was over, that's when the real story began. That night, the atmosphere felt different. There was no loud noise, no bright stage lights, just a silence that slowly filled the space. And amidst that silence, the two of them didn't immediately part. It was just a coincidence at first. At least that's what it seemed. They walked together a little longer than the others. The small conversation that should have ended in the hallway continued. No one called out. No one noticed. It was as if the world was giving them space, just for one night. And that's where everything changed. Jungkook didn't speak right away. He just stood there, staring at Jimin with an expression that was hard to describe. It wasn't his usual one. Not a joke. Not even the small, caring expression often seen. This was different, deeper, more honest. Jimin, on the other hand, seemed to understand even before the first word was spoken. Because sometimes, not all feelings need explanation. There was a long pause, but it wasn't an awkward pause. Instead, it was a comfortable silence. The kind of silence only two people can have who understand each other without needing to say much. And perhaps, for the first time, they weren't trying to hide anything. Their conversation that night was never recorded. There were no witnesses. There was no evidence. But from all the little clues that emerged afterward, fans began to piece together their own story. Some said they saw changes. Small but noticeable changes. The way they looked at each other became softer. Small touches that once felt like jokes now felt more meaningful. Even the distance between them that had sometimes existed seemed to disappear. And the most suspicious thing? They hadn't posted anything about that night. Usually, even the smallest moments are often shared. Photos, videos, or just quick updates. But that night was completely empty. It was as if they had agreed to keep it just for the two of them. And that's precisely what made it all feel more real. Because not everything needs to be shared with the world. Some things are too precious for that. Theories began to emerge. ARMY began connecting every detail. From the moment they returned, to the expressions on their faces the next day, to the small interactions that seemed different from usual. Some say that night was the first time they were truly honest with each other. Others believe that feelings that had been hidden for so long were finally expressed. And others feel that whatever happened that night, it wasn't something new, but something that had been there for a long time, just finally acknowledged. Interestingly, after that night, they seemed calmer. Not in the usual sense, but like someone who had finally figured it out. There was no longer any hesitation in their gazes. There were no more awkward moments that had often appeared before. Everything felt more certain, and fans felt it. They might not know the details. They didn't know what was said, what happened, or how the night ended. But they could feel the shift in energy. And sometimes that's enough, because feelings don't always require proof.
자, 여러분, 달려라 방탄 앞으로도 계속됩니다. 달려라! 방탄!
나 진짜 근데
나까지
그때
공이 안 와요. 그리고 좁고 세 번 튀겨야 되는데.
야, 그때는 웃기려고 그랬던 거야. 어떤 거야 솔직히?
그치, 야, 보여줄게.
야 왔다 태영아 제대로 왔어 너희 팀.
보여줄게. 완전히 달라져 버린 나. 잘 차는 나.
아 진짜 진작에
That night may never truly be revealed. There will be no confirmation. There will be no complete story from their own. And maybe there shouldn't be, because some stories are true not for the world, but for the two people who experienced it. But one thing is certain. Since that night, something has changed, and that change can't be hidden. But what makes that night even more unforgettable is the quiet aftermath that followed. Because sometimes the loudest confessions are not the ones spoken out loud, but the ones reflected in actions after everything has already been said. The next morning didn't come with dramatic changes. No grand gestures, no sudden announcements. Instead, it was subtle, almost too subtle for anyone who wasn't paying close attention. But for those who had been watching them for years, it was impossible to ignore. Jungkook seemed lighter yet more focused. Jimin, on the other hand, carried a softness that felt new, but also strangely familiar, like something that had always been there, just finally allowed to breathe. When they stood next to each other again, it wasn't just proximity anymore. It felt intentional, natural, like there was no longer a need to second-guess where they stood. And maybe that's what truly happened that night. Not a dramatic confession, not a life-changing declaration, but something even deeper. Understanding, acceptance, the kind that doesn't need to be proven to anyone else, the kind that exists quietly but powerfully between two people who have finally stopped running from what they feel. Fans might continue to search for answers, replaying clips, analyzing moments, trying to find that one missing piece that explains everything. But perhaps the truth was never meant to be found in videos or photos. Perhaps the real answer lies in the way they are now. Calmer, closer, certain. Because in the end, not every love story is meant to be told out loud. Some are written in silence, in glances, in small gestures, in moments that pass by unnoticed by the world, but mean everything to the ones living them. And maybe that's why that night will always remain so powerful. Not because we know what happened, but because we don't. Because in that mystery, in that silence, we're left with something even more beautiful, the possibility that something real, something genuine, unfolded when no one else was watching. And somehow, that makes it even more unforgettable. So what do you think, what really happened that night? Was it just a coincidence exaggerated by fans? Or was there something deeper that finally came to light behind all the silence? Let us know in the comments, because every theory, every perspective, always makes the story come alive. And if you want to stay updated on every little moment, every hidden detail, and every possible untold story about Jikook, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. Because here, see you in the next video.